Thanks for joining us today with Gold Terra. We have a fantastic hour-long webinar by Gerald Panneton and Dave Suda. Before we get into that, just a couple things. So if you want to ask questions, there is a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, so just input your questions there. I think that we'll be waiting till the end to take questions, but feel free to add them throughout the presentation. And this presentation will contain forward-looking statements. If you don't know what those are, they are contained in the company's disclosure, so just have a read through that. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Dave Suda, CEO, and Gerald Panneton, Exec Chair. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more about Gold Terra. Dave and I have known each other for a number of years, and I think we all know Gerald from his days at Detour Gold. One of the things that really interests me about this project is how invested Gerald's become over the last little while. I did a post at the beginning of this week, which I think kicked off the rally and the breakout, just about how much stock he's bought since joining the board of the company last fall. So I'll start with Dave. Dave, maybe you can do an intro to yourself and the company and tell us all how you managed to convince Gerald to join the board.
Thanks, Deb. Thanks very much for having us. These are, difficult times to be sitting in front of everyone, only from the perspective that there's certainly a strong element of enthusiasm for our project and within our team. So while we're sensitive to what's going on around us, we're very excited about the road ahead here. And so Deb and I actually worked together for a few years at Beacon Securities. I used to be in the brokerage business, and that's how I became involved with Gold Terra. I saw this as a tremendous opportunity, and certainly the project has the hallmarks of something that's going to be truly successful, we believe. First of all, I was attracted to the fact that the project is in Canada. It's a district scale project with high-grade gold. It is right next to a town, the town of Yellowknife, and it's on trend with two very prolific past producing mines. And on that basis, I made a big career switch, moved our family to Vancouver, and then spent a little bit of time trying to figure out what the project needed. And certainly it was clear that the project needed focus and it needed new energy. It needed somebody who could really bring a strategy to the technical perspective, somebody with experience and somebody with a solid track record. And so having worked with Gerald in the past, it took a little bit of time to explain sort of my vision for the company and why I thought that some of the hair on it could be trimmed off. And then shortly thereafter, Gerald, I think I won't put any words in his mouth because he can say it himself, started to see the merit in the project, and we were able to bring him on, and I was effectively able to hire myself an excellent new boss. So without further ado, I'll turn it back to you and Gerald. Deb.
Thank you very much, Dave. So Gerald, I think that you're going to take us through the presentation. I think the question that everyone wants to know is, after such an illustrious career, why Gold Terra? Why did you choose this project and this company to get involved with?
Well, it's very simple. It's to carry the illustrious career. Just carry on. So, I would not get involved in a project if I had a chance. I will only get involved in a project only if I have a chance to create value for shareholders. That's my main goal, because I become a shareholder myself, and I just want to carry on with that same goal, same objective. And I think also after spending so many years exploring international properties around the world under the Barrick umbrella, I felt that I didn't want to go anywhere else than Canada or the US. So for me, my hunting territory or my prospecting territory remains just North America, excluding Mexico. To go on and talk about Detour, yes, we turned the page on Detour, and Detour was basically part of the past. Detour is now been sold for $4.9 billion. The intention is not necessarily to sell a project, but you can never refuse a good offer. And I think that's very important. But how do you create shareholder value? It's about good project. It's about location. It's about untapped potential, about being under-tested or undervalued, underrated. And just as a word, to the people that were there before David and I, we need to mention to them that this has been quite of a success story under the radar for Joe Campbell and his team to have put the project to what it is today, 790 square kilometers, controlling pretty much all of the Yellowknife camp, excluding the two past mines, which are Giant and Con. So here we are. David took a while to convince me. I did the technical review back in May of last year, which is about a year ago. This is where it all started. And now we're a one drill program done, and we're carry on with doing more of this by showing you what we have done so far and what we're planning to do. So if you look at page 4, some of the highlights since I joined was to put the first mineral resource out. And that's important because people don't realize sometimes that 6 years in the making of Terra X minerals and no resource out. So the first one came out. Of course, it's inferred, but some of the drilling is very tight, especially on Crecer. So it's a very good resource. It's something that is not out in the boonies. It's constrained within a pit. And of course, following this, we did a winter program on Samoto, which sit close to 500,000 ounces to see if we can increase the resource. I think what we're going to spend time today is we're going to spend more time talking about Samoto, our drilling, and the Campbell Shear, which host the two Giant and Con mine, produce 14 million ounces together up to about 2003. We can talk about those. This is where the potential lie. We have a lot of subsidiary shear zone off the Campbell Shear, such as Crecer, Barney, Samoto that we drilled last winter, and some high-grade low gold vein at Ptarmigan, which is 99% recovery. A lot has been done, but now we're focusing more around Yellowknife, and a lot has still to be done with tremendous potential to be untapped. Now, with us, just to talk a little bit about management. Of course, Dave and I have known each other for a while, but I thought on page 5, what's very important is to talk a little bit about the upgrade in the directorship of the company. With myself and David, we kept Joe as the founder of Terra X. We brought Mark Brown as a CFO to streamline the accounting system. We've also brought 2 people from Detour that were with me in 2006 when I started and founded Detour. Louis Dion, mining engineer. This is very key. Without Louis, Louis has been my mining mentor for 27 years. I highlight him because I highly regard him as one of my best mining mentors that I was working with during the Barrick days and during the Detour days when we put the Detour story together, as well as Laurie. Basically, when I started Detour, nobody knew me on the street in 2006. I was hiding in Barrick Corporation, and Laurie basically put the company on the public sector on the map because she had a lot of experience as an investor relation. So I think it's important that we not only that we want to repeat Gold Terra, but we're surrounding ourselves with people who will stride us and help us through that process. On the next slide, which I would like to go on and talk about the project, we can switch to slide 6 now. Talk a little bit about the great property that we have in Yellowknife. You can see basically the town of Yellowknife. You can drive from Edmonton. It's approximately 18 hours drive. It's accessible 12 months a year. We have a national airport that allows us to have flight from Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Ottawa. So it's very well serviced. It's the gate to the diamond mines at this point in time, where many diamond mines were found in the Northern Territories and also in Nunavut territories. The town has about 20,000 people and can service extremely well all of mining that can be developed in the area. We are focusing more on the next slide. We want to show you more about the City Gold project and our primary target, which is on slide 7. This is where I thought that some of the great potential has been, as well as in the South Belt, which is south of the Con Mine, which we can talk about later. It's a district-wide prospectivity. A lot of drilling has been done from 2004 to 2019, but not that much when you look at it. 6,000 meters over a period of 15 years is almost nothing. We just did 10,000 meters in less than 3 months. Of course, for following our first mineral resource, you can notice that our focus is within reach of the city of Yellowknife. 9,650 meters were drilled at Samoto, and another 1,200 meters was done on another target on the Campbell Shear, which we can talk a bit more later on. On the next slide, what's important is to understand, I'm a geologist, but I'm not gonna talk a lot about geology. On slide 8, you're looking at a composite long section. When I said composite, it's because not everything is on the same piece of sheet or plywood. It's like you're having 2 pieces of plywood side by side, and they're 4 feet by 8 feet long or more. And they're like 3 kilometers deep by 50 kilometers long. So you can imagine the potential that there is in the camp. The 2 mines represent about 10% of the Campbell Shear. All of the zone that you see to the north, Crecer, Barney, Samoto, Mispickle, Omer, are not even on the Campbell Shear. They're subsidiary, which means that the Campbell Shear was tested, but not fully tested. And when you look at the deposit like the Con Mine, that goes down to 2 kilometers deep, the Robertson shaft went down to 1,900 meters. You can definitely see that the tested was untested, especially to the north and especially to the south, where we have our South Belt project. What the Con Mine Campbell Shear Zone has is 5 million ounces at 16 grams. What this giant mine has at 8 million ounces is also 16 grams. Both deposits combined are 13 million ounces at half an ounce per ton, 15, 16 grams. And they were mined over a period of about 40, 50 years. It represents only less than 10% of the full spectrum of the Campbell Shear, which is a district scale structure similar to the Destor Porcupine, similar to the Cadillac Lauder Lake. So they're very, very, very important. What we have, of course, is where do we drill, what do we do? And that's our target. So the next program that we're intending to do in the fall, as soon as we are COVID-free or financially more solid to do a big program, we intend to test the Campbell Shear, which basically is plunging to the south on our South Belt property or extending to the north to the east of the Crecer deposit, for example. So for us, this is why we're involved. This is why, if you ask me, why are you joining Gold Terra? The answer is right on this long section. The answer is very simple. There's been 14 million ounces found over 5-6 kilometers on a 70 kilometer strike length shear zone that has never been tested fully. And we believe that over the last 20 years, with the limited drilling that has happened, we still have a lot of work to do. And hopefully we'll be able to find the next 5 million ounces potential that we will have on the Campbell Shear. This is a very important structure. A lot of compilation has been done already. We're just fine tuning and we'll be ready to drill this target in the fall. So on the next slide, if you can move the next slide. Again, just to show you how important it is, we have the Barney, we have Samoto, we have Crecer. Those are not even associated with the main shear zone. The long section that I was just showing approximately a few minutes ago, or the previous one, will be updated before the summer, probably, because we're working currently on it to make it more representative. Because I think what's missing is the information along the Campbell Shear, and to exclude all of the satellite zones that are similar to the south or to the east. Again, we're focusing around the town, and if you move to the next slide, which is our resource. Our resource is comprised, this is the resource that we published on November. I'm not going to go over the number with you. Of course, you're going to say, are you focusing on Samoto because it's a low-grade zone? Not that we're focusing. Samoto was drilled this winter because it's easy to reach in the winter. That's why we focused. The main reason is that last summer they went to Samoto. The price of drilling was a lot more. We need a helicopter to support it. Like we always know, we're in town. So why should we use a helicopter to go drilling when we can, bring the drill and basically go to the drill, and within 15 minutes you're on the drill site. So it's a very, very compelling situation of infrastructure. I could open a small parenthesis about remote project versus in-town project. There's no question in my mind that if I wanted to do another project, I would rather prefer to do it in the city, near a city, than remotely like Detour Lake or others are, because they're a lot more expensive to be done. Again, our resource published in November was the first one, and we wanted to show that not only we had an open pit potential that could be satellite to a main producing mine, but we also have a lot of underground, and you can see that Crecer is only drilled, and we're going to look at the long section in a few minutes, only drilled down to 200 meters at 25 meter centers. So the deposit is open in all directions, and we feel comfortable that Crecer will generate a lot more ounces if we were to drill it. Now, going on to the next one, I want to leave you enough time actually to ask as many questions. I'm going to skip to the next slide, which is basically, our primary target of Samoto. We drill it. We've released approximately 18 holes out of 34 that has been drilled on the Samoto trend. And what we were trying to do basically was to take this 426,000 ounces, and the slide 12 is a very good slide to illustrate not the drilling, but the next one, please. Yes, the long section basically show you that there was a lot of drilling gap in between the Samoto main deposit and the Samoto South. Samoto South, there was barely like 5 or 6 holes. So we needed to put an emphasis to see is Samoto South real or not. So we've drilled that. Most of the results so far has been coming from Samoto South. Now they're going to be coming from in between the main zone and the south zone. And we firmly believe that more ounces will be added to the resource from the Samoto. It was a question of time to drill it and better understand and see what the potential was. Now this is almost behind us, and we expect to publish a resource in 2020 once we finish all the results, the interpretation, and we're ready to publish the resource for Samoto. And next, basically, on the next slide, will be to show you one of the things that we were able to intercept in those holes is that we've intercepted visible gold, which was something never seen before in the Samoto belt. So we were very happy to be able to demonstrate that visible gold can also be drilled in those areas. Now, the next slide, we're going to be starting to talk about Crecer, our next drill target for the fall of 2020. So sometime at the end of August, September, we expect to go back and drill Crecer. Crecer is an easy, it's a shear zone, very similar to the Conch shear, and I'm going to show you a picture of that a bit later. What's interesting about Crecer is that it's not on the Campbell shear. It's a sub-parallel subsidiary to the Campbell shear. It's got potential like the Conch mine to be 1 million ounces of 20 grams, and it's got very, very much the same mineralization style. So on the next slide, basically we'll show you a long section on page 15. But just before that, on page 15, you can see quartz vein, sericite, anchorite. I'm not going to talk too much about geology, but what's important is that you've got the same similar type of mineralization. The Calm mine on the Calm shear, the Calm mine produced 1 million ounces at 20 grams. The Crecer shear trench at surface gave us 25 grams over 4 meters. Very, very similar geology and geological setting. And we believe firmly that we can increase the Crecer shear, which has only been drilled to about not even 200 meters vertical, which is shown on page 16, the next page. So basically, right in this long section, you can see the high-grade ore chutes that are above 30 grams. You can see the red thing. And you can see very well where some of the chutes in the main zone are basically not drill tested below 200 meters vertical. And that's, think about it, 0 to 100 meters, there's no more spacing needed for the drilling. It's all done. And of course, you can see the repetition of all those chutes. And the Crecer is also open as it is as long as 3.5 to 4 kilometers long, but never been completely drill tested, especially below 200. Our target basically will be to drill the first 4 holes at 400 meters vertical, which is 200 meters below mineralization, in the plunge of the high-grade chute that you can see in the pink color on the Crecer shears. And finally, our program in 2020 is very simple. We drilled the Samoto, it's completed. We did an IP survey as well, which is very important on the North Belt. The main reason we did this important IP survey is, and I couldn't believe it as a geologist, I said, what? There's been no IP survey on the property and you've had the property for 7 years. I mean, IP survey does 2 very important things: disseminated sulfide or low resistivity to outline all of your shear zone. So that's mostly done now. So we have a lot more data and tested to be done on the Campbell shear, the Crecer shear, any subsidiary shear that you have. If I was showing you a detailed map of the Calm mine, you will realize that beside the Calm mine, there is a lot of cross-cutting quartz vein, 1 ounce per ton. There's the Negus shear, which is also cross-cutting between the Calm shear and the Campbell shear. But more importantly, if a Campbell shear, which is 20 to 175 meters in width, on the Calm property is that important, then it can very well be tested to the north and to the south. This is not going to go anywhere. And that's why we're planning to not only drill Crecer in the Q3 of 2020, but also test the Campbell shear in the North Belt and possibly in the South Belt on areas that are accessible before the winter. And of course, our goal by the end of the year, we'll have to have Samoto resource update and possibly Crecer update and hopefully another discovery. So summarize very well our program for 2020. And again, I can never stop by saying that it is so nice to be in Yellowknife. People, I'm not sure how many people on the webinar have been to Yellowknife, but this is a city which has some, you can see it on page 18. It's got access, it's got flight from Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, everything. It's got, I think, something like 14 hotels. So you can be picky about the hotel you want to choose. And you have power. You have an all-season road that drives from Edmonton all the way to Yellowknife. You have mining people. And when you develop a project, you build a mine, everybody goes home at night. It's a lot more cheaper, a lot more safer. We have a $5 billion new hospital that has been just recently built. It's amazing how the infrastructures are in Yellowknife, and that will make our life a lot more easier once we've discovered our deposit that we want to find on the Campbell shear. And with this, I'm not sure if I can say enough with the Northern Territory. They're very supportive. Drill permit, for example, our drill permit is currently in valid for the next 7 years. It's mainly with the water board. So we don't even have to go every year to request a new permit for drilling. We have our drilling for the next 6-7 years. The community support for mining is there, and we feel very fortunate to be able to live and work into a place like it. Thank you for the Yellowknife support community, and thank you for your attention during this presentation. And if you have any questions, David and I are there to answer them.
Thank you, Gerald. I think that was a very good overview. Again, just stopping on the cap structure here, I want to mention the insider ownership again, because we had a number of people join the call a little bit late. So you joined as exec chair last fall. And since then, how many shares have you purchased?
I came as a chair with the merger of another company where we have a project in New Brunswick. So I came in with about 1.6 million share, and since then about 1 million share at 36 cents in a private placement in October. And then I purchased quite a lot in the financing we did in December at 25 cents. And more recently, I bought something like another 200 for a total of about 4.4 million share now.
Okay, that's quite a impressive amount of stock that you've purchased. So I think it just speaks to how you view the project and the quality of it. You also have pretty strong insider shareholding beyond yourself, institutional. Do you want to speak about your shareholder base at all? Suda, maybe you'd like to chime in?
Sure. This is one of the things that we've been fortunate to have as a junior exploration company. We do have existing institutional shareholders, and it's also been a focus for myself over the almost 2 years that I've been with the company. We've managed to attract new institutional holders with each financing that we've done. Notably, last July, we added 2, and certainly in the last one, we added another couple of institutions. Between Gerald and I, our history in capital markets, it's where our strengths lie. We are, also very proud of having dedicated and loyal retail ownership, and a lot of our retail ownership is high net worth, very sophisticated. And so, as we start to see the market gain steam here, we expect that we'll have a lot more success in further adding institutional holders. Obviously, a major focus for us, and we've seen actually quite a bit of traction in the last couple of weeks. Sooner than we had expected coming out of COVID. We've had inbound calls, and we've started giving presentations to institutions. So we'll continue to work on that. But again, our existing shareholders have been supportive and continue to be. So we're quite fond of our registry. But with our backgrounds, that's going to be a major focus, is to continue to improve the quality. We just want to have people who want to align with us for the long term and see this project through to the success that we see, the potential that we see.
If I could add something very quickly, that I think people have to realize, and there's a bit of a small parallel I could draw here. Terrax is a little bit like Pelangio before we purchased the property from them. Pelangio had the asset of Detour Lake for roughly 6-7 years, and basically had no access to capital market, no knowledge of, no research analysts, no door to the capital market, basically. And Terrax basically went through 6 years of mainly retail and high network people, and very little institution that came into the stock. So what you see now is a big difference. What you see now is that maybe the fact that David joined about 2 years ago and myself 6 months ago, we're bringing a different dimension. But we also are believer of this project, and we're more focus driven about generating value for the shareholders by making gold discovery and adding ounces. Think about it. The first resource on Detour Lake was done in 2006-07 for generating the Detour Gold IPO. The same thing with Gold Terra. The Terrax days, there was no resource, and that's why we changed the name to. We wanted to reflect the fact that we're a gold company, and we know the capital market, and we believe that we can deliver a lot of ounces over in the future. And so I think there's a change. There will be a change in the shareholder basis of Gold Terra, and it takes time. But we know that we have one of the best projects in Canada, and we're in town. So we're ready to stay there for a couple of years, and we don't allow ourselves 5 or 10 years to give you value. We allow ourselves like the next 2 years, and that's it. And hopefully we will be able to deliver what we expect to do.
Thank you. There's a couple questions from the audience. So this one is for either you, Gerald, or Dave. Could you please expand on the drilling that has not yet been reported? Is it all in Sam Otto? Are there any exciting potential holes that are in new or different areas?
Every time we drill a hole, we're always excited because we expect, first of all, the Sam Otto drilling, we still have 16 holes that have not been released. Of those 16 holes, most of those holes are all holes that will basically be, expanding the resource. They were driven, they were drilled to make sure that we're not infilling drilling to reduce the resource. We're there to expand it, because if you want to put Sam Otto in production one day, you probably need 2 million ounces at 1.5 grams or 1.2 grams. So we're in the city. So this is our aim, because Sam Otto, that's why we were trying to do it. So we have 500,000 ounces. Can we get it to 1 million ounces? And so that's our target. Now, we drilled 2 more holes on the way out. Lucky enough, towards the end of the program, just before spring break up in the last week of March and first week of April. So we're still waiting for the result. Technically, these 2 holes were successful. We were testing the Campbell Shear on the North Belt, but in completely unknown territory almost. And the 2 holes were 1 kilometer apart from each other. So we have a lot to learn on the project. Are we excited about these holes? Visually, for sure. However, you have to wait for the assays. And even if the assays are not good, it doesn't matter, because the Campbell Shear, like I said, is a 70 kilometers strike length shear zone. It's hosting 30 million ounces that was produced up to about 203. And to find the next Campbell Shear target or Campbell Shear zone of that amount of ounces, Hamlo took hole number 76 to be found. Are we going to take 76 holes? Hopefully not. But I can tell you that we want to find it over the next couple of years.
And what do you think the timing on those assays is going to be?
Towards the end of May, we should have all the assays. We'll be able to disseminate the result by the end of mid-June. And then we're going to be starting to plan a high-grade program that we intend to do in August, September on Crecer, the Campbell Shear, the Con Shear, on the North Belt and the South Belt. So we have a lot of work ahead of us.
Have you seen a lot of slowdowns at the labs due to COVID?
Actually, the lab has been relatively good, steady. We have, our assays are being done in Vancouver. Sample prep is in Yellowknife, so we had no problem carry on. For those who don't know, mining is an essential business in the Northern Territory. So we've been very fortunate to be qualified essential, as opposed to other provinces like Quebec, who basically stop every exploration project. But you have to realize that if you have a camp, for example, I know that people at Nighthawk or the people of Agnico Eagle that are remote because of cafeteria, because of food, because of people, for action, they had to close their mines. That's what Yellowknife provides you. We don't have to, because everybody can go home.
I think it's important to actually add that we've been touting one of the hallmarks of the project as being right next to Yellowknife, and the fact that it has all of its workforce and infrastructure. And, we found ourselves in the midst of this crisis with an uncompleted drill program, which all of a sudden, came into question. Are we going to be able to complete? And so we found ourselves being able to hang our hat on that very hook, the one that we've talked about, since I joined this company. Being next to town means something, and we were able to complete our program. We were able to follow the guidelines, the government regulations, and we were able to lean on the local community in order to make sure that we were able to complete our program. And so, therein lies the beauty of being where we are, is that even in a time like this, we were able to continue to operate, and now find ourselves fortunate enough to deliver results when many others can't. So we're really happy with that and proud of it.
Gerald, you mentioned some of the larger mining companies or majors. Have you seen interest from the majors in the project?
Dave can answer better than me, because he has received interest from different majors. David can answer the question.
Yeah. So this is a project that has, historically garnered quite a bit of interest from other companies. And certainly in the early days of my involvement, that interest was, reaching levels where my big concern was, wow, we haven't really extracted the potential for shareholders here. We haven't generated the shareholder value that we'd like to see as we're seeing this interest from majors. So I was kind of almost in a bit of a panic, going, we don't want to be giving this thing away. It's one of the projects that just makes sense. And so I have been at site with groups that are there, and they're interested, and they see a deposit like Sam Otto, a bulk tonnage target at surface, easy to mine, close to town, surrounded by a halo of high grade targets. So yes, there has been interest. But we've got a lot of work to do. We want to fend that interest off. We want to stay friendly, keep people engaged, but at the same time, there's a lot for us to do here to generate a lot more shareholder value.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you want to hang on to the project, drill it more, add more shareholder value, but also, given Gerald's experience in the past, if you thought that you could extract more value from building the project, would you?
Over to you on this one.
This is, first of all, we are a junior that has the team to build it, between Louis and I, because I've done it 3 times, and Louis has done it 6, 7 times. 2 of them, I was with Louis, which basically is the Detour, and looking at different other mines. But at the end of the day, a company is public, and if shareholders decide to sell it because there's an offer on the table, shareholders decide that. Our job is to create value, find as many ounces as we can, as many positive economic deposits as we can in an area. And if the market is there and we can put them in production, we will. That's something that we can do. But if one guy comes in and wants to buy our company because he likes it too much, because we've done great work, whatever it's at the pre-feas level, at the feasibility study level, or while we're in construction, and the shareholder decide time to sell, it's their decision. I can only vote my share, that's all. My job, like I said, or David's and I's job, is to make sure that the path to create shareholder value is steady, quick, and well-focused.
So further to that question, what do you think the true value here is? What's the potential, in your opinion? It's
a very difficult question to answer. It could be 5 million ounces. It could be 10. It could be more. When I was looking at Detour Lake on the first day of my technical review in April 2006, it took me half a day, and I said, "Oh, could be 5 to 10 million ounces," and I end up with more than 20. So 16 in reserve and 5 in the resource, and now the mine is still, in production for the next 25 years. Yellowknife is different because we're looking at a high-grade target. And if the high-grade target is there, it's 1 million ounces, 5 million ounces. The threshold is, my target is more than 5. I truly believe we can do that.
Well, I think if I can get you to expand a little bit on the comparison you drew when we spoke earlier this week between Detour and Gold Terra, and why Gold Terra really interests you, and the experiences that you've had in Detour sort of make you a little bit more excited about the grade potential here. Sorry if I'm putting words in your mouth.
No, look, I know that, people will always want to draw a parallel between two companies and two different projects. These two projects are very different, but they carry the same thing. They have tremendous potential which has never been tested. Basically, that's what I see. That's why I know we can create value. It's always easier to find gold near an existing gold deposit than it is to try to find gold in boonies. So, and on top, being in Yellowknife, we have all the infrastructure to support any mining development. So it's very, very key to the success of a company in finding a deposit in Yellowknife.
So I have a question about your institutional shareholders. Are you able to disclose any? I looked on Bloomberg and I don't see any actually listed, so I'll leave it up to you whether you want to address that question or not.
David?
Yeah, I think, look, as a former capital markets person, it's safe to say that people don't like to have their shareholdings announced to the public unless they're publicly listed. And,
Or that they own 10%.
Yeah, I don't have a Bloomberg in front of me anymore. At one time, there were a couple of institutions that were listed, and I know that there was one that was listed that's no longer a holder. And then I'm pretty sure that anybody who makes a phone call to a desk, they can figure it out. But no, I don't want to name anybody. That's not the right thing to do. So let's move on to the next question.
But the one we know is that are the institution. We know them. And I think they're very supportive of what they're doing. They're recent.
I don't know if it was just me, Gerald, but your mic cut out a little bit.
What I wanted to add to David's comment on the institution, without naming them, you can see that they're very supportive. They were part of the last financing in December, and we look forward for their support. They know what we're doing, and they know us as well.
So I'm glad you mentioned the last financing because you are funded right now. What are your plans with your cash? How much drilling can you do with the $3 million that you have in the bank?
Limited drilling. I think we would. I'm not going to lie to you. Embark in 10,000, 20,000 meters of drilling in the fall. We'd like to have a cash top again. We're looking, to that possibility. We don't need to raise any cash now. But, don't be surprised if we raise money again in 2020. But COVID is really what is stopping us from doing anything. We see that there's money, there's flows of money coming into the mining sector and the sectors. We like the current market. And don't be surprised if we tap into it again in 2020.
Okay. And then with regards to the last 2 holes you mentioned from the previous drill program, that are in new areas. What drove your decision to drill those? Was it the recent IP work or some new interpretation of past data?
Both. Interesting. The question carries the answer. The IP survey was a driver, so we waited for the IP survey to be completed in that sector, and immediately we basically targeted those two holes to learn about. Look, the Campbell shear is not bound to be at the contact with the same units. It cross-cut shears on. It's very important. It's very strong. There's been an attempt to follow it in the North Belt before, but as I said, more information. Sometimes we do a drill hole just to test the stratigraphy, learn about the geology, and so we drilled two holes that are 600 meters each, 1 kilometer apart, based on IP target and learning about the geology of the sector. So technically, it was a very good success, but let's hope the assays talk for themselves.
So one of the things that's really appealing about this company is the team that has been built, both with yourself and Dave and Louis de Jong. You have a really strong board, a really strong management team. Do you have any other additions that you're planning on making in the near term? What can we expect in terms of board composition and management team going forward?
Management team, I think we're very happy. We've been able to do a drill program and evaluate our strengths in the drill program in terms of management. There will be some reaffirmation of the management that we prefer to have. In terms of board, I think we're set. I think we have a very good composure of members that covers many aspects of our business. I think we're so far very, very fortunate. And I think if we need to make a change at some point in the future, we do it. But for now, I think it's very good. No plan, no change for plan.
Okay. And I have a question about Giant. So do you see in the future any headwinds with the legacy arsenic issues with Giant? And if that would affect your project? I'm actually not sure if they mean their project or your project. Also, any estimate of an in-drill cost on your targets, current and past?
I'm going to answer the first question and then answer about Giant after, but the last question was about drill costs. Our cost is about $225 per meter, all inclusive. This was just our recent drill program that we do. Just for the information of people, we have to have an ambulance at the drill site. That's cost us $15 per meter for the program. Just to give you that we're working within the regulation of the Northern Territory. Even if we're 20 minutes from the hospital, we needed to have an ambulance near the drill site. Talking about Giant, you're talking about a different thing. Giant is currently under the government of Canada. It's a huge liability to reinstate the Giant mine and resolve all the issue with past mining and past treatment and past arsenic contamination. What you need to know and understand is that the the Campbell shear, the Con mine, was free milling. Our target is free milling. It's not refractory ore. So we're targeting on mineralization that is free milling. Whatever is the Ptarmigan high-grade mineralization that is on the other side of Yellowknife, whatever is the Campbell shear, which was free milling at the bottom of the Campbell shear, this is what we're aiming for. And so we don't see the Giant. We could be compared, but we have an answer for it. Giant is not part of our plan.
Okay. And then I don't see any more questions from the audience, so feel free to add them in. I would like to point out what the stock's been doing recently, because I think with this market cap that you have, and you haven't done a lot of marketing, and I think that the project is largely underfollowed and unknown. You've got a great management team, great location, proximity to infrastructure, to labor, you know, like scale potential, multi-million ounce potential, and really strong management team and board. I think that, you know, getting the story out there is going to start to benefit your share price. And we can see already this week, just talking about your insider shareholding, and like your stock essentially came out of nowhere and broke out. I think that getting out and talking about the story and making sure people know what you have here is going to really be a catalyst unto itself for the stock, but that's just my view. And yeah, I think unless there's any other questions, maybe we can just summarize, Dave and Gerald, like the key points that you think that investors should remember about the project, and maybe outline a few catalysts just so people leave the session remembering what to look for in terms of news flow.
If I can just take the lead here on this part, I think, you know, we've certainly summarized over the course of this webinar, and Deb, thanks very much for asking great questions and structuring it in a way that's informative. I think Gerald gave an excellent presentation in terms of the technical merit and potential of the project. It's very simple. We're in Canada. We have a district scale project. It's 100% controlled. We've got 70 kilometers of very prolific strike on trend with 2 past producers right next to a town. Our management team is highly driven, experienced, focused, and with significant skin in the game. We've got continuity with previous management, with shareholders that supported this project, you know, since day one. We're bringing new energy and life to this story in what looks like, you know, an up and coming significant bull market. So having cash in the bank and drill results pending, you know, we could have news out as early as next week, and that news could continue to flow for several weeks, if not a month. And as Gerald alluded to, you know, we've got targeting that we can talk about, and we're very excited to get back on the project, drilling, adding ounces, and generating shareholder value. So I think, you know, that to me pretty much sums it up. And unless Gerald has anything else to add, I'm just looking forward to, you know, getting past the Zoom world and meeting some of the people who are on the other side of this camera that I can't see, to further share this enthusiasm with.
Yeah, maybe I can just add that we're very open. What I think is important is I'm going to come back and draw a parallel again with Detour Lake. Was not very well known. Only hands of a junior for 6-7 years until the resource proposition was put together. And same thing, the Yellowknife City project is a great project that never maybe got some attention. But I think when you bring different teams, you have a reset, you have a focus, first resource. There's a lot of things that has happened in the last 6 months with this company that didn't happen for 6 years. I think it's just the beginning of a new story coming out. Like I said, we're in town, we're in the city, and we have lots of time.
So 735 ounces right now. Sorry, yeah, 735,000 ounces. Sorry, I'm dyslexic apparently today. Dave knows I can't do
2 million ounces.
Yeah, thank you. Right now, but you know, the potential to grow that, I think, as you discussed, is really there. Proximity infrastructure, lots of news flow coming. Great management team with a strong track record, like strong insider and institutional ownership. Why Gold Terra? I think that you've very clearly answered that question. If there's one more audience question. It's probably, oh, no, they're just saying thank you. I was like, it's probably going to be somebody telling me to shut up. Anyway, thank you so much for taking the time to present today. If anyone would like a copy of the presentation or a follow-on call with management, please let me know. I will make the replay available within a few days. And yeah, everyone have a great Thursday afternoon.